Hi, this is Algebra 1, Lesson 75. We're going to talk about writing the equation of a line and the slope-intercept method of graphing. If we graph x equals -3, we already know that it makes a vertical line because for every value of y, x equals -3, right? So if we look at this graph, we have a vertical line, x equals 5. So for every y, whether positive or negative, x equals y. So we can graph it like this, x equals 5. If there is only one graph, if there's only one line on a graph like this, you can label it anywhere off to the side. If there are more than one lines on a graph, label it on the line, because it makes it more obvious which line you're talking about. So find some convenient place on the line to label it. Okay? So this is a vertical line if we have only a value of x and no values of y. Okay? If we graphed y equals 2, it would be a horizontal line because for every x, y equals 2. So let's look at this graph. Here we have a horizontal line. Y is at -4, and it stays at -4 for every value of x. So the equation for this line would be y equals -4. Right? The equations of vertical and horizontal lines are easy to recognize. We have x equals 5, which would be a vertical line. X equals -3 is a vertical line. Y equals 2 would be a horizontal line. And y equals -4 would be a horizontal line. Non-horizontal or vertical lines should be written in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form looks like this. So the y is all alone and the rest of the numbers are here. Okay, so some examples of this could be y equals -x plus 2, or y equals 2/3 x minus 5, or y equals 0.007 x plus 3. Okay, these are all equations that are in slope-intercept form. When we're talking about slope-intercept form, the m is the slope and the b is the y-intercept. Since in any equation, the y and the x are in the same place, so finding the equation for any line depends on finding the m and the b. Okay? So we're going to talk in this lesson about how to find the m's and b's for any equation of a straight line. In the y-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, we call b the y-intercept because its value is the y-coordinate where the line crosses the y-axis, or in other words, where the x equals 0. So in this line, right here, the line is crossing the y-axis where x equals 0 and y equals 4. So we know that the b of its line is going to be 4. So we can write its equation like this. Y equals m, we still don't know what m is, x plus 4. Because this is a positive 4. If it had crossed down here, then this would be -4. Okay? So now we know this much of its equation. On the bottom line, it's crossing the y-axis right here, where y equals -3 and x equals 0. So we can write its equation like this. Y equals mx minus 3. So here's an example. Find the y-intercept of y equals 3x minus 5. Well, we look at this, and if the form is y equals mx plus b, and b is the y-intercept, then the y-intercept for this equation is negative 5. That's where x is going to equal 0. If x equals 0, then y equals negative 5. Okay, so the y-intercept b equals negative 5. Okay, here's the next one. Here's a line, and the question says, find the y-intercept of the line shown. Here's the line, and the y-intercept is where x equals 0, and it crosses the y-axis. So here's the y-axis, and the place where the line crosses the y-axis, where x is 0, this is the y-intercept. So in this case, the y-intercept is 5. This point is 0, the x is 0, and the y is at positive 5. Okay, now let's talk about slope. The slope is the m of the equation. So if we have y equals mx plus b, the m is the coefficient of x, and we call it the slope. If the equation of the line is y equals negative 2x plus 6, the slope equals negative 2. Note that slopes can be positive or negative. If a slope is positive, it will rise as the values of x increase. So as x goes to the right, y is going to go up, and the line is going to look like this. Okay? If the x goes this way and the y just goes a little bit up, it's going to be a somewhat steep slope. If the a somewhat flat slope. If the x just goes a little bit and the y goes way up, then it's going to be a very steep slope. Okay? So anytime as the x increases and the y goes up, this is going to be a positive slope. If as the x increases, the y decreases, so the line is going to go like this, this is going to be a negative slope. And it's going to be the same way. It could be many x's and a little bit of y's, which will make a very flat slope, but it's still going downhill. Or, as the x increases just a little, the y could go down a lot, which would make a very steep slope down. Okay, the book. Okay, on page 307 in your book, we have this way of remembering which lines are positive and which lines are negative. We have a picture of a man in a car. And if the car going from left to right, as x is increasing, so as x is increasing, if the car is driving uphill, then the slope is going to be positive, and the m is going to be positive. If the car is driving downhill on any of these kinds of hills or grades, the slope is going to be negative. So as the x increases and moves towards the right, if the slope goes down, the m is negative. As the x increases and moves to the right, if the car is going uphill, then the slope is positive, and the m is positive. Okay? We can find the value of the slope by finding how the line changes from one point to another. So there are a few different ways we can think of slope. We can think of slope as the changes in y over the changes in x. Our book calls it the rise over the run. The way you find it out is by subtracting two values of y from two values of x. So we're going to look at a graph. We'll look at this graph right here on top. And we're going to choose from this line 2 points. It can be any point on the line. We're going to choose, just for an example, this line. This is, the x is 0 and the y is -2. And let's choose this point. So the x is 4 and the y is -4. Okay, so we've chosen 2 points on the line. We can choose any 2 points. It's a straight line. The slope should be the same at any points on the line. You can choose any 2 points. Okay, so we're going to find the differences in the y coordinates, sometimes called the rise, and divide that by the difference in the x coordinates, which we can call the run. So the slope is going to equal the rise over the run, and we're going to find that by looking at these points. The first point, we're going to call this point 1, and the one closest to the right, or farther to the right, as x is increasing, we're going to call that point 2. So the y from point 2, we're going to call that y2. y2 equals -4. y1 from point 1, the y is y1 is -2. Okay? So to find the rise, the difference between this one and this one, we're going to subtract those, and we're going to say y2 minus y1 equals -4 minus -2. Okay? And we are going to divide that by the change in x. So x2 is 4. x2 is 4. And x1 is 0. So it's going to be 4 minus 0. Okay, so now we have -4 minus -2. We can make these two cancel, and we just have -4 plus 2. So that equals -2 over 4 minus 0, which is 4. We have -2 over 1. We can simplify that to -1/2. So the slope in this equation is -1/2. So when we write its formula, it's going to look like this. Y equals -1/2 m plus b. And we can see that this is actually b. b is where x equals 0 and y equals -2. So this line is y equals -1/2. Oops, this is x minus 2. And that would be the label for this line. Okay, let's look at the next line. Here we have this line number 6. The form is going to be y equals mx plus b. We can see the y-intercept is right here at 0 and 3. So we can say that the equation for this line is mx plus 3. This is a positive 3. Okay? We can see that the slope is going to be negative because the line is going downhill as the x is increasing. Okay, so we know we're going to have a negative slope. So let's pick 2 convenient points. The points do not have to be close to each other. They just have to be easy to work with. So let's try -2 and 6. And let's try 4 and -3. So our points are -2 and 6, So we've gone 2 to the left and up 6. And we're going to go 4 to the right and down 3. Okay, so these are the 2 points we are going to use. The rise is going to be this value, this y value minus this y value. So to find slope, we're going to do this y value minus this one. So that's -3 minus 6. And the run is going to be this x value minus this x value. So that's 4 minus -2. Okay, we work this out and we get -9 over, these two cancel, 6. We can pull a 3 out of both of those, so this will be -3/2. Okay, so this is our slope. And we can say that our equation now is y equals -3/2 x plus 3. And that would be the equation of this line. Okay, here's another one. Let's look at this line. We want y equals mx plus b. We look at this line, we see that as x increases, the line is going uphill. So this is going to have a positive slope. We can see that where x equals 0, y equals -2. So our b is -2. So we have y equals mx minus 2. So let's choose 2 points. Let's choose 4 and 0. So we have 4 and 0. And let's choose -2 and -3. Okay? This is the point of the line that is farthest to the left, where the x is the smallest. So this is going to be our point number 1. This is going to be point number 2. So we're going to find our slope, we're going to do our rise over our run. We're going to start with point number 2. So the y's, y2 minus y1 will be 0 minus -3. Right? And our x's, we have x2 minus x1. So we have 4 minus -2. So this is going to equal, those two minuses cancel, so we have 3 over 6, which equals 1/2. And sure enough, it's a positive slope. We're going uphill. So the equation for this line is going to be y equals the m, which is 1/2, x, and the y-intercept was -2. And this would be the equation for this line. Okay, up till now, we have graphed lines, graphed equations of lines like this. So we have y equals -3/5 x plus 2. And we find values of y, plug them in. We want 3 values of y. So if x equals 0, then y equals 2. If we use 5s, then the 5th is going to cancel out of this fraction. So let's try y equals 5. This will cancel. We'll have -3 plus 2, which is -1. If we do a -5, then that will cancel this, and we'll have +3 plus 2, which will be 5. So here are 3 points, 0 and 2, 5 and -1, and -5 and +5. And we could graph this. Now that we understand slope and y-intercept better, though, we can graph it faster without finding individual values of y first. We won't have to do this part. So let's try that. I have an empty graph here. We're going to be graphing, let me move it up here where there's no shadow. Okay, we're going to be graphing y equals negative 3/5 x plus 2. So if we look at this, the y-intercept is at where x equals 0 and y equals 2. So that's going to be right here. That's going to be our y-intercept. Our slope is going to be negative, and that means that as our x increases, our y is going to decrease, right? So if our x goes forward 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, our y is going to decrease 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be our next step to the right. Okay? If our x decreases, if the negative is in the 5, so the 5 decreases 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then the y is going to increase 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay? So, we can draw this with dots if it's easier for you to see. If our x goes down 5, it's going to increase 3. If our x increases 5, it's going to decrease 3. And that leaves us with this line. I'm going to pull out a ruler so I have a chance of drawing some kind of straight line. And I kind of missed our dots, but you get the idea. So this would be the graph of negative 3/5 plus 2. Let's try another one. Here's an example. Use the slope-intercept method to graph the equation let me read it correctly. X minus 2y equals 4. Okay, this is not in slope-intercept form. So the first thing we're going to have to do is put it in the correct form. Oh my goodness. How bizarre. Okay, so first we're going to get the y by itself. Let's subtract an x from both sides. We have negative 2y equals negative x plus 4. Now we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. All the terms. And we have y equals 1/2 x minus 2. Okay? So this is the equation we're going to use. We can see that the y-intercept is going to be at negative 2. So where x equals 0, y is going to equal negative 2. The slope is positive. So as x increases, y is going to increase. And this says that for every change of 2 of x, 1, 2, the y is going to increase 1. So that will be our next point. From here, every time x increases 2, 1, 2, y is going to increase 1. And it's going to continue to go that way. If x decreased 2, then y is also going to have to decrease. Because we have a positive, so it's a negative over a negative or a positive over a positive. All right, now we can make this line. And here's the graph of y equals 1/2 x minus 2. On the screen, I'm going to put a link to the website where I found these graphs. If you don't have graph paper, these are very handy graphs to use. You can find graph paper there that you can print that has a big graph, one big graph on a page, or two like this, or they also have the little graphs where there are 6 little graphs on every page. It makes doing these a lot easier. So on your screen, you should see the website for Donna Young's graphs. She also has a lot of great homeschool and other educational forms Some of them are free. These are free. And some of them you have to actually pay for, but they're worth it. So check the website out. Do your practice problems. Do all the problems from this lesson. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.